Welcome back to the Purpose Walk podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ava Eager Brown. And this morning, I'm so excited to have this beautiful lady in front of me. Her pink has given me such color and bright, and then the purple with my favorite at the back. And I'm just so glad that you've graced us with our presence. Now, we have Abbey Anderson here this morning. And before I actually literally talk to Abbey, I'm going to share just a little bit about who this amazing woman is in the world, because she's shining her light so brightly. Abbey is 44 years old. She's based in Benfleet in Essex in the UK, for those of us who don't know where that is. She was born and bred in Wellington, Somerset, and moved away from her family to Essex when she was 19. She has had her fair share of struggle and trauma. Just to name a few, she was sexually abused at the age of 7 through to age 10, suffered domestic violence in her relationship. She's been through bankruptcy. She's diagnosed with fibromyalgia, but she's able now to actually say, you know what? I'm going to chuck this shit in the bin and I'm going to keep on pushing through. She now runs 3 businesses, and she's had a life where she's cherished, and she's so grateful. And we have none other than the kick-ass Abbey inside the room. And I read your bio and I was like, oh my God, she has commonality with me. And here's what's crazy. I hadn't seen your bio because I've been back to back. But the moment you stepped into the room, there was this energy. And I could tell that energetically we had commonality. Don't ask me how. I just felt it. I just knew it. So I read that. I was like, oh, shock. I have been sexually abused. I've been broke. I've been homeless. Abbey, tell me, welcome to the podcast. It's so good to have you.
Thank you so much for letting me join you guys. It's just amazing to be here and to actually be able to tell my story, because although I've been told I'm a very inspirational woman, to be honest, I really struggle with that, because my philosophy has had pretty much a JFDI attitude, which is just effing do it, because I've not been put on this planet to please everyone else. This life I'm living is my life, and I'm not, it's been a real struggle. 40 years of my life has been the most heartbreaking struggle. I've tried to commit suicide because I didn't want to live. Thankfully I didn't succeed, because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today.
I want to take that in. I like the opening you said, and just do it, because COVID came and I found myself, we're in the middle of moving house, and I had to just grab an apartment. I'm sitting in an apartment that I only got very familiar with in the last kind of 8 weeks. Nothing from home. The only thing I have is a suitcase I came off the airplane with, and I found myself in the middle of a turmoil. Life happened and I had to literally flee and get here because of COVID. And I say this to say that when you've been through certain things in your life, you get to a place where you just get on with it. And that is what we've been able to do. Now, I saw that you've been through sexual abuse at a young age, 7 to 10. I have an 8-year-old son. I have a 22-year-old daughter who was 7 at one point. I can't imagine what that must have been like. Talk me through what you're comfortable with of that, because 7, you're still a baby. 10, you're just trying to come out of, being a child.
The thing is, when you're of that age, you it's almost like you don't know what the rights and wrongs are, and you really rely on your parents to guide you to know what's right and wrong. And unfortunately, I was sexually abused by my father. And then once he passed away, actually, when I was 10, and I was then sexually abused by another family member. So that was twice. And you get to a point when you're at that age, it's not right, but for having it happen to you twice by 2 individual people
you trust.
Exactly. And the innocence of a child is taken away. So I had a very distorted view on what love was, what affection was. And obviously when I brought that into my later years, when I was obviously grown up and through the nest, it was very distorted, and I was I was actually labelled by my first husband as the ice queen. You know,
Mm.
I very rarely gave affection. I very rarely like belly laughed, and I very rarely cried because
Mm.
I suppressed a lot of my
Emotions.
exactly. And it wasn't until I had my daughter
Mm.
when I was 27, and everything came to the surface, emotions that I'd suppressed, the flashbacks and everything else, and I literally went off the rails.
Mm.
Postnatal depression, it split me and my husband up, but I then found myself being a bit of a robot, because obviously I wanted my daughter, I loved my daughter,
Mm.
but I wasn't really capable of actually looking after her because I couldn't even look after myself.
I want you to pause right there because there's so much there to unpack. And you're talking to somebody who, if ever you've ever found anybody where relatability works, it's right here. I understand every fabric of what you just said. It was my dad. I was a little bit older. The people around me were meant to protect me. And then it happened with my in the same house, my step brother and my step uncle. So I understand all of that. And then you get married and you suppress it all. And then you have this husband to give love to and this child, but you don't even know how to love yourself, and you've never really been loved. And so how do you serve from an empty cup? And you sit there and something has to fall apart.
Yeah.
Because for you to be literally remade, if there's such a word, into the person who's able to serve even the child, you need to be looked after.
Yeah.
You need to be literally reshaped and reformed, and you literally need to do your own work, because you cannot parent properly when you're so broken.
No. And that was the thing. That was my turning point in, right, I went through therapy. I put myself into like a rehab clinic, would you believe, in Guildford. And I was there for a week. I was amongst drug addicts, sex addicts, alcoholics.
Mm.
And I wasn't any of those. However, we all had something in common.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why people go for the drugs or the alcohol is to suppress and how to cope with the situation. Exactly. Now mine was my work.
Oh my God, I knew we had commonality. I have post-traumatic stress.
Yeah, PTSD. You do.
And I work. It manifests in I'm always working. And my son keeps saying to me, "Mommy, you're always working." The ambulance came to pick up my son at the weekend, and he said, "My mom has a night shift, a morning shift, an evening shift." And in his brain, he can't compute. But in order for me to function, I have to be working. I have to be creative.
Yeah.
And that in itself is a disorder, because it can impact you. But it's
an addiction.
It's an addiction.
Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, for those of us who've just joined, we're really on the Purpose Walk podcast. I'm talking to Abbey Anderson, who has been abused as a child by her father. And Abbey, let me just go back to that, because when it's your dad, like, I understand that when it is your father who, in my opinion, this is how I look at you. You're my dad. You're supposed to protect me. You're meant to be that person who is supposed to protect me. But when you abuse me, it's almost like you're telling me that you're giving everybody else permission. Did you feel that way? Because later on in my life, that's how I felt like, but hold on. You're meant to look after me.
You know, I mean, my immediate family, like my current husband, he struggles with the fact that when I talk about my father, I don't talk about him in a disrespectful way, because that's not who I am as a person. I know what he did was completely wrong. However, you know, he's still a human being, and I tend to look at it and think, well, for somebody to actually do that, what possesses somebody to actually, what's gone through their mind, what's gone through their life? Was he abused when he was younger? You just don't know, and I will never fathom it out, and I've stopped myself from even wondering the reason why. It's just who he was, and unfortunately, you know, for him, but fortunately for me, he did pass away. He died of a heart attack at the age of 34, and in some respects I think that's a bit of karma that's happened. So therefore, you know, but to have it happen again, you know, 12 months after he died, by my cousin's boyfriend, you know, you start to think to yourself, oh, is this actually life? Is this right? Is this meant to be then life, because to happen once and you think, actually, this isn't quite right, something's not right. And then for happening again, you know, you do start wondering at that age, what have I done to do, you know, to provoke it?
Yeah.
But I was innocent. A child of that age is so innocent. They don't, you know, you want to be affectionate, you want to be cuddling. And my daughter was the same, you know, they want to be around you, they want to hug you. And that, to me, I really struggled with years ago, but now it's totally different, because obviously my journey has got me to where I am.
Tell me about that journey, because you're no longer that person. You are this transformed human being, amazing, looks so gorgeous, been married again, and you have 3 businesses. Tell us, how did you get? I want to hear the journey, because oftentimes we miss out that part in the middle. Yes, we were in our traumatic state. Yes, we've been through a lot, but then this is where we are now, and we miss out this piece, the steps you took. What did it take for you to transform? Because that is what's going to help somebody else who's watching or listening to this. How did you get from A to C? What's the B? What did you do differently? How did you transform?
So when I had my daughter and everything came out, I actually told my family, my mum, my brother, about what happened to me back then. The thing that came out was, it's not that we don't believe you, Abbey, it's because we don't believe that my dad would do something like it, which was a bit of a backhanded way of saying, actually, Abbey, we don't believe you. You know, I didn't wake up one day and just say, oh, I'm just going to make a story up. This is actually what happened to me. It's my life.
Yes.
I was then sort of disowned by my family.
Yes.
I then split up from my ex-husband. I had no friends, no family, no support, nothing. I was at the lowest ever. And it came to me in my therapy that, you know, you have to know who you are as a person to know what your next step is. I was living in the shadows of my mother, you know, with the show home, getting married, move, you know, have children, settle down, and that's your life. Once I'd had that, I was like, this can't be it. Yes. You know, I don't believe this is going to be for the rest of my life. I was so unhappy. I had to go away and work on myself. I needed to know what I liked, what I didn't like.
What you can't tolerate.
Exactly. For me, I didn't know who I was as a person. And I was much of a people pleaser. You know, I was trying to do things to make everyone, you know, praise me, because I'd been so punished.
Undervalued as well for so many years.
So I was always going out of my way to please others, which then in effect made me unhappy. So I then took the selfish route. Now, a lot of people would see this as you're being selfish, but no, you need to take ownership of who you are. You're the one that's living in your bubble, your world. And to work on me and actually put boundaries in place where people then weren't taking advantage of my good nature, actually saying, no, that's not what I want. And if you don't appreciate that, then you're no longer in my life. And I had to literally ditch a lot of my friends that I thought were friends in life and actually start again. But the more I actually then got to know who I was as a person, really got some real deep, and oh God, it was a journey. I mean, I wrote a healing journal that's thick.
Wow.
Look at my days, the bad days, the gloomy days.
And journaling is so powerful. People don't understand the healing potential of journals.
And it really did help get it from my head and my body, because it was consuming my body. I was being very ill all the time with it. And through some of the stuff, the law of attraction, manifestation, really working on the good that was in me. I knew I was a good person. I was listening to the child within. And one particular song that got me through all of that was a Christina Aguilera, which is The Voice Within.
Yeah, powerful song that is.
And I downloaded the lyrics, and I've got it in my journal. And do you know, that's really true. You have to start listening to the person that's inside you. And yeah, it's been a really good, big struggle. You know, as soon as I was thinking I was getting somewhere in my life, something bad happened. You know, every time I was thinking, God, what do I have to do just to make things right? All I want to do is have a happy life. You know, even up at the age of 40, I had my first business, and then suddenly I was bedbound with an illness that really knocked me, and I was in so much pain, which is my fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
And that actually stems from PTSD.
How did that manifest itself? And I asked you that for a specific reason. How did that manifest itself in you?
They say that fibromyalgia is part of PTSD. And I'd not long recovered really from I got with somebody after I'd split from my ex-husband. He married his solicitor. He's still got my daughter. Me and my daughter's relationship, I mean, she's 17 this year, is beyond anything I could have ever imagined. It's amazing. So although she's apart from me, that's been a really hard thing. But, you know, to go through all of that and to be told in court that all abused victims become abusers when they're older.
Oh my God, where have I heard that before?
Exactly.
Having spent 26 months in court myself with my ex, where have I heard that before? It seems to be that people think that because you're abused, you have to be an abuser. I totally don't subscribe to that at all. People can literally choose to not be that way, especially when you're on the receiving end of what that feels like.
100%. So that's how the courts went against me as a mother, because I was unstable. Yeah, I guess to some degree my daughter was probably best where she was with a stable father that she had at the time. Now I find it a completely different story. However, when I was 40 and I'd run my business and then I had fibromyalgia, that's where it all became. It was then after my divorce, I got with somebody that I thought that's who I was worthy of. He was a drug addict. He was an alcoholic. He put me in £250,000 worth of debt. I had to go bankrupt, and he beat me up for 2.5 years.
He was your wound mate. So here's what it is that people who've been through trauma, sometimes when we're not yet healed, we find wound mates. It's called a wound mate because it's familiar. It's what we're accustomed to. It's what we know, and we have to get over that. We have to get over that wound mate desire to be able to become healed. I understand that totally because I've done it myself many years in a row. Trust me, I get it.
Yeah. So it was at that point of my life, which was very bad. Yes, I dabbled with drugs as well, but found that actually this is not what I want in my life. I did drink. I don't drink anymore, purely because it actually exacerbates my pain through fibromyalgia. So I've been through so much struggle that when I decided to say, that's it, I'm going to start up my own business in bookkeeping. I did, and for 2 years it was going really, really well, and then bang, I then was hit fibromyalgia. I was in so much pain, I couldn't even work, couldn't even get out of bed. That's how bad it was. And then I lost my business because I was the face of my business. I was the only one that could do the work. So, and that hit my pride, that hit me again, and thought, everything I'm trying to do, it feels like the universe is against me. I always used to say, it's that devil farting in my face yet again. And I could not get out of this lull. And in the end, everyone said, well, fibromyalgia, that's it, your life's ended. And I was like, no, I am not. Everyone was going, Abs, but you have to accept it. You have to accept it. I said, no, it's not because I don't accept it. I accept that I've got fibromyalgia, but I will not accept that this is going to be for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So my pure determination was then said, right, okay, so let's understand fibromyalgia. Let's work alongside it. So my boundaries of my energy, how much I can work, what I can and can't do, that's what I accept. But I don't let it define me. It's how I dealt with it that's defined me.
Wow, that is so powerful. So rather than swimming against the waves, you actually rode the waves. I love that, because so often we get diagnosed, and the moment we hear the word, wow, yeah, we claim it, it's ours, it's my diabetes, it's my high blood pressure. No, I have this condition, but it is not who I am. And it's just a part of the process that I'm in right now. And I'm going to go in front of it. And I love that, because the quicker we actually swim into it and hone it rather than try to fight against it, that is when it controls us. So tell me, I want to hear, because I don't know, are you working with clients who have fibromyalgia now? Is that something you do?
No, I don't. I am in quite a few fibromyalgia groups. However, my 3 businesses is, one, I actually do bookkeeping for a number of big clients in Europe, London, and actually America now.
Fabulous.
So that's one of my businesses. My second business is also very similar, and we do a lot of online courses, and we mentor about 140 bookkeepers in the UK.
Nice.
So I'm really helping bookkeepers actually start their own business.
Great.
And my third business is, we've just developed an online piece of software to help bookkeepers quote for their services.
Wow. Ooh, that's amazing. So all from a girl who was abused at 7 years old, who's had fibromyalgia, who's been divorced and been to court, who's been depressed, done drugs, drank, you just say, you know what? I'm not going to let this be my life. You picked yourself up and you decided that I'm going to keep going. Oh my God, that's so amazing, Abbey, because that is truly a tumultuous journey, but look at where you are now. And some people would have just literally stopped there and said, I can't do this anymore. But you kept going, because I believe that whenever you've been abused, you can choose 2 paths. You can choose to literally lean into it and become promiscuous and drugs and alcohol and literally decide that, oh my God, it's a lot. And I'm not in the judgment of anybody. Or you can choose, because it's a hard path, or you can choose that, guess what? Yes, this happened to me, but it's not going to be defining what I become. And I have this quote on my website that says, what you've been through does not have to define who you become. And you are such an amazing example of that. And I'm just humbled and honored that I get to do this side by side with somebody who feels like a soul sister, who's been through almost some of the same things I've been through, but here we are together. Now, Abbey, tell me how we can contact you. I'm going to put the notes below, but tell us where we can contact you if anybody listens to this and want to talk to you about fibromyalgia or your bookkeeping software or services or coaching.
Oh, bless you. Yeah, no problem. There's a number of ways. You can find me on Facebook. I've got quite a few groups in there, and my email address as well, which obviously you'll put in there.
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. Guys, if that did not blow your mind, whether you're sitting at home, yours might not be sexual abuse, guys. It might be that you've been bankrupt. Here's an example. It might be that you feel depressed. It might just be that your marriage broke down or COVID is knocking you left, right, and center. It might be that you're caught up in the race relations uprising. It doesn't matter what it is. What I want you to do from these podcasts, especially one like this, is to unpack. This is where she was, but look at the steps she took to come out of it. And that is what this podcast is about.
And can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
Whatever you do in your life, never regret the decisions you make. The decisions that you make, even if you go, I wish I'd never done it, actually gave you an answer, gave you an answer to that question, what if? I read a book not long ago that said, never go to your deathbed with regrets, always with experiences. And always turn those experiences into a positive. You learn by them. And that's exactly what I've done. I've stopped beating myself up with the decisions that I've made.
I love that, because I was going to end with saying failure is feedback. Failure is feedback. And one of the things, I went to Steve Harvey. I got invited to Steve Harvey 3-4 years ago. And when I went to Atlanta, one of the things I came back with, having spoken there, was that no is a complete sentence. It's about boundaries. It's about saying, you know what, I always say to my clients, get a piece of paper, list down all the people you know, and on the left, right, are they contributing to your life positively or not? And if they are not, you need to eliminate them. And I love that you kind of spoke about that in another way early on. And that is really amazing. Guys, this is so amazing. I love it. Until next time, it's Dr. Ava Eagle Brown here. And this podcast has been sponsored by the Manga Girl and also by Royal Threads. And I will see you again on the next one. Goodbye.